Welcome in. If you guys aren't familiar, my name is Caleb Schilke, and I'm the host of the Ascended podcast. Not only that, but I'm the founder of Ascend, the organization which strives to push young men and individuals into the top 1% by unlocking secrets that you were never designed to learn and leveraging technology like AI, which has now changed the playing field. If you're on TikTok, welcome. I want to be talking into my primary podcast, so feel free to join us in the community. Let's begin. Have you ever wondered why so many people struggle to get ahead despite doing everything right? I have myself. It might not be your fault. In fact, the game has been rigged for over a century. When the iPad was first released, Steve Jobs famously didn't let his own kids use it. And long before that, oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller helped create the US public school system with a chilling mission. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. These aren't just anecdotes. They reveal a pattern in our society. Think and spend your life. Don't save it. In this live stream, we pull back the curtain on 3 such systems: education, finance, and technology, uncovering eye-open facts most people have never heard. By the end, you'll see how these systems were built to keep you in line, and more importantly, what you guys can do to break free from them. We talked about this yesterday, but let's get into the real systems of education. Most of us assume school is here to make us smart and successful. The shocking truth is that modern public education was never intended to produce independent thinkers. Its origins trace back to 18th century Prussia, where schooling was designed to produce disciplined, obedient soldiers who would follow orders without question, not creative citizens. American reformer Horace Mann visited Prussia in the 1830s and was so impressed with this regimented model that he brought it to the United States. The results was a one-size-fits-all factory-style approach to school, a sharp turn away from the locally controlled, individualized education that early America had cherished. Remember, with the classrooms and the walking up to the board with chalk and the small, tight-knit communities? Yeah, we lost that. Industrialists like John D. Rockefeller eagerly backed this model. In 1902, Rockefeller founded the General Education Board, pouring the equivalent of $6 billion of today's money into standardized public schools. Oft attributed quote about producing workers over thinkers underscores the main goal here, guys: to churn out reliable employees, people that would just follow orders in a system, rather than entrepreneurs or visionaries. Many features of schooling today still reflect this 19th century factory design. And you have to ask, why? Standard curriculum as a concept and age-based grading can be an issue. Children are sorted by birth year, right? Whenever you were born, however old you are, stay within your class and taught the same material at the same pace, like parts on an assembly line. Kids that were gifted typically still had to stay at the same pace as those who weren't. There's little room for individual strengths or creativity. Memorization over critical thinking. The norm in classrooms is lecture, rote note-taking, regulating facts on tests, any of this stuff, standardized testing. Students become adept at passing exams, not excelling at them, not questioning, solving real-world problems that would change our trajectory. Authoritative, one right answer cultures. Teachers hold the authority and students learn early not to challenge what the textbooks ever say. When has that ever been productive in history? It just doesn't make sense. Instead, you want rote memorization of facts. You don't want questioning of sources. And we're taught that everything we were taught in history is the truth. Well, the second you start questioning that, that's when the fun begins. Life path programming. Schools implicitly teach us to get a diploma, get a job, and obey the rules. There's barely any education on personal finance, entrepreneurship, or just innovative thinking as a whole. And why is that? Who wants to stop you from that? Skills that actually create wealth and independence. As one student observantly put it, right? Our current teaching methods are essentially perpetuating complacency, not educating students with a purpose to be thinkers. So it's getting recognized. People understand that school isn't here to just help us excel. It's here to help us conform, which most of us have to. But again, that's easier than saying, well, 70% of you aren't going to result in anything. 29% might make something of yourselves and 1% will really change the world. Telling that to a child is very alarming, right? So no wonder, right, that over 12 plus years in the system, many graduate without practical life skills because of the system we have, or the mindset to really break out of the mold. Critical thinking is taught in some classes, but often as the exception, not the rule, right? It's always special programs that get you to think outside the box, not part of the system as a whole. The end result will generations of people conditioned to follow instructions. For whose benefit? Not the rule. The end result, generations of people documented into this Prussian model that's been existing since the 1800s. Like we said, it was explicitly about producing dutiful workers, but more importantly, soldiers back in the day. And this is what our kids are going through. This is what you went through. You never thought twice about it. Well, I'm here to challenge that belief. I'm not here to disrupt the system necessarily. That's not my main goal. My main goal is education. But I want you guys to be thinking critically in a position you were never allowed to do before. You were never awake because they wanted you to stay asleep. As long as you only learn to memorize and to comply, you're playing by rules set over a century ago to keep you ordinary. And frankly, I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. So we need to talk about the financial system. Why you can't seem to get ahead in anything you guys are doing. Move my water out of the way. If the education system, and I'm just going to be asking questions here, right? I'm not trying to do anything other than just make a point. If the education system molds you to be a compliant worker, the financial system ensures you stay dependent on the paycheck. Here's a crazy fact I'm going to give you guys. The United States' central banking system, the Federal Reserve, was literally conceived in secret by a handful of bankers. Read about it, guys. Jekyll Island. In November 1910, a group of elite financiers and politicians, including associates of J.P. Morgan and the Rockefellers, held a clandestine meeting at Jekyll Island Club in Georgia. Their utmost secrecy, they drafted a plan to remake the nation's banking system. This plan became the blueprint for the Federal Reserve, established in 1913. They even hid the meeting's existence for years. It would now widely become known and eventually not even first known until the 1930s, though. So why was it kept secret for 20 years? Well, because these men knew that average Americans distrusted the idea, I guess, of a central bank controlled by a big bank and big bankers. In other words, the foundations of our monetary system were laid by a small elite behind closed doors with their interests foremost. You guys know this. And I think the thing I need to say is that most of you, this isn't even new information for you. Why are you not doing anything about the fact that you understand this? Fast forward to today, and the average person is feeling the same fucking squeeze out of that system. Despite working harder and being more productive than ever, most people aren't financially better off than their parents or grandparents. It's, in fact, honestly, our spending power has gone down. Our grandparents had more spending power with their money than we did now. Consider that eye-opening. Let's talk about stagnant wages. After adjusting for inflation, the US wage has about the same purchasing power as 40 years ago. In real terms, middle-class earnings peaked in the 70s and have barely budged since. You might be getting pay raises in dollar amounts, sure, but those dollars don't buy more than they did decades ago. That's why most people, there's levels to this, right? Most of you guys are too ignorant to even understand how inflation works. And so you're thinking, well, raise my pay, right? 5%. Yeah, sure. If that raises across the board, it really means nothing because companies will very quickly adjust to that and you're screwed either way, right? Let's talk about the cost of living. Meanwhile, the costs of housing, education, healthcare have skyrocketed. This creates a vicious cycle where a decent salary often just covers the basics. As of 2024, roughly 65% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, meaning 2/3 of the people in our country struggled to pay the bills if one check came late. Even among those earning over $100,000, many are still just making ends meet. Personal debt, credit cards, student loans, etc. is at historic highs because people must borrow to bridge the gap. Inflation is the silent thief. And honestly, here's the kicker, guys. The Federal Reserve intentionally aims for about 2% inflation each year as a policy. That comes from federalreserve.gov, so don't believe me. It doesn't sound like much, but even mild 2% inflation will cut the value of your money in half over 35 years, right? So if they inflate money by 2% a year, and I think a couple of years ago we were at 3-point-something% a year, then in 30 years, the spending power will be cut in half. In other words, the system is designed so that cash savings lose value over time by default. If your income doesn't keep up, you're effectively getting poorer each year without noticing. Now, let me ask why this happens. Well, the people with money are parking it in assets like real estate. And if real estate, let's say you buy a house for a fixed rate at $300,000. Okay, so you have a loan now for $300,000, but you have the keys to the house. What happens when $300,000 is not worth, like a dollar isn't worth as much as it used to be? Well, $300,000 now doesn't seem like as much. It'd be saying like a house in 1970 that you locked in for $50,000, and now you're looking today, that $50,000 doesn't look like shit. So if you already own the house and it's at a fixed rate, meaning it's not going to change over time, well, keeping the same keys to the house and making the value of money decrease means that the property you own essentially becomes worth less, and you can own the land, you can own the infrastructure, which is really about what's going on here. And you guys don't see that. And I mean, just think about it. You're told to work hard, you're told to save money, yet the money system is quietly eroding the value of those savings and keeping your wages flat on purpose. That's from pewresearch.org. That's from an organization. So who benefits? Debaters and asset owners. notably the government, which prints money to pay debts, and big investors. Who loses? Well, you guys, the everyday worker trying to preserve wealth. The intended purpose of the Fed, the Federal Reserve, was to stabilize the economy and prevent bank panics. Sure, right? That's the story we were all told. But as a side effect, and perhaps some argue the main feature, is that constant inflation and credit dependence kept people tied to the grind. You must keep working just to maintain the same standard of living with little chance to get ahead. As long as you're barely keeping up, you're not a threat to the status quo. If you're just swimming above water, it's a sobering realization. The financial game is structured by institutions that really don't fucking care, that don't necessarily prioritize your prosperity. They want you to rent forever and not own, because owning means you can accumulate wealth fast in times of inflation, which is what we're in. That's why interest rates are staying high. It has nothing to do with banks. It's because they don't want you to own fucking property, and they'd instead own it and make money themselves. This doesn't mean you can't become financially free, but it explains why it's so hard. If you feel like running in place financially, that's exactly how the system likes you to be. Only by understanding these rules, guys, and then investing, right? Acquiring assets, rich dad, poor dad style, and creating value outside of the typical paycheck cycle can you start to win your game instead of theirs. Guys, in my personal opinion, I don't think inflation or interest rates on houses are going to go down anytime soon. Why? Because the banks like the fact that they can lend out money, and the people that already bought before any of this are paying down their houses faster. Interest rates are linked to inflation. If interest rates go up, inflation goes down, and vice versa. Okay, and they want to keep interest rates high to try to control inflation, right? But really, it's just because they want to preserve the value of assets that they already had and be able to pay them off quicker, right? So it's great if you already own a house, but for most people in the market trying to buy and been waiting for the last few years, you're kind of fucked. As education and money sets the trap, big tech and media spring it by hijacking your most precious resource, your attention. We live in the age of the attention economy, where companies literally keep you scrolling, right? They watching, clicking the new memes going on online, right? Just as long as possible. And they become extremely, extremely good at it. This isn't by accident or just how technology evolved. It was engineered intentionally, often with a cynical understanding of human psychology. Social media's addictive design can drive people apart in real life. And that's something, guys, we've all seen. Relationships, toxic behaviors, right? A false standard that we're comparing with, a fact that's not lost on tech leaders. They realize this. They just don't give a shit about fixing it. And they limit these technologies for their own families. The first social network to hit billions of users was Facebook. Sean Parker, Facebook's founding president, blew the whistle in 2017 about what the company was doing. The thought process, and this is his quote, the thought process that went into building these applications was all about, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? Those aren't my words. It's literally right in front of you guys. I just said it. Parker confessed. This comes from CBS News. Facebook's team knew they were exploiting a quirk of your brain's chemistry. They're triggering dopamine on command, and they found the secret. Marketed as fun reels to send to your friends, or posting a snap late at night, whatever it's going to be. Obviously, that's not the same company, but you know what I'm saying. This means we need to give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while. We need to throw that tung saur in there just to get you going, because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post. It's a social validation feedback loop, guys, exploiting a vulnerability, right, in human psychology. In plain terms, they studied how to get you hooked, and they did a damn good job at it. And then they built an app to do exactly that. Facebook didn't just spring out of nowhere. Human psychology was already pretty well understood, and then Facebook represented the perfect way to capture it. The inventors, the creators, it's me, right? It's Mark Zuckerberg. It's Kevin Systrom, Instagram. We understood this consciously, and we did it anyway. Except some of us use it for good, and arguably some of us use it for bad. That comes from CBS News. Again, information on that. Think about how powerful that is, you guys. The people who gave us Facebook and Instagram deliberately designed them to be addictive, much like casino designs or a slot machine or Fortnite or whatever it's going to be. Features like infinite scrolling, where you just never hit the bottom of your reels, that's kind of like a slot machine, right? Autoplay videos and push notifications are all there to hijack your brain's reward system, so you keep swiping and refreshing. Think about this view, guys. Imagine if the algorithm is like a slot machine, and you could keep pulling the lever, right? You could keep cranking the machine, right? But every time you crank the slot machine, you're paying money. So gambling's bad because you see the money leave your pocket right away. Well, social media, every time you're scrolling through a reel or another live stream or someone else's after this, because you guys have the attention span of a fucking goldfish, you're likely going to run out of energy eventually. And that's an hour, that's 2 hours of your time that you guys could have spent working inside of a productive community. I'm literally going to pay you guys money if you just click on the link in my bio. You don't have to pay for it, and you make money tonight. There's opportunities right in front of you guys, is what I'm saying. And I've proven that. Read the reviews. Check out systems like that. But you guys can't even realize that because you're so addicted to the loop. And then you claim, oh, at least I don't gamble. At least in gambling, you know what the cost of it is. You can see the money leaving your bank. In social media, that's the inverse because you're losing potential. And potential is infinite. Gambling is a defined amount of money. And honestly, probably over time it gets less, right? Because the value of a dollar goes down. But potential only goes up if you're working on yourself. And that's what they're trying to restrict. I think I'll go here. Yeah. The result, honestly, is just the average person spends at least 4 hours a day on their phone. That's the average person. And half of us don't even have phones. Much of it on social apps and news feeds, right? All the similar shit. Streaming platforms are similar. You ever wonder why recommended videos never end or why you go to the next live stream after this and it never really stops? It's a race to the bottom of the brainstem, not the feed. And as one ex-Google ethicist, right? So Google actually has people that care about ethics, believe it or not. And they said a race to the bottom of the brainstem to get you using my product is what they're going for. The more of your attention they capture, the more ads they sell, and the more influence they wield. Stop spending your money on Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, because they don't really give a shit about you. I've tried doing all of those, right? But sure, they're effective because other people are there. But honestly, find other ways to own the infrastructure. That's what we teach you how to do in the Syndicate. Now, who's calling out people here? Well, ironically, many tech leaders themselves restrict their own kids from the tech they created. Steve Jobs wasn't alone. Bill Gates and many Silicon Valley executives enforce low-tech or no-tech rules at home. That comes from The Guardian. They send their children to Waldorf schools with no screens and set strict time limits. Ask yourself why. What do they know that the public doesn't? Simply put, they know these tools can be harmful if overused to concentration, to creativity, to mental health, and real-life relationships. And so instead of fixing the systems with the people that have the money and the influence to do so, they said, well, this shit's fucked. I'm going to just protect my family, my kids, and not talk about it. And I'm going to look like I'm still doing the right thing and I'm ignorant to the problem. That's the same fucking narrative politics teaches you, the news teaches you, media teaches you over and over. We're fucking shit up and then we're hiding our families from it and pretending that we're still doing good in the world. Don't hate the messenger, guys. By controlling your attention, tech giants effectively shape your behavior, what you buy, what you believe, how you spend your time. You ever catch yourself falling down that YouTube spiral, right? The rabbit hole and checking your phone with just no aim. You just open it up, you go home screen, right? I check my Clash of Clans base. I'm right back off my phone. I go back to my phone, I check my Clash Royale stats, and then I get off my phone. And it's kind of just a repetitive cycle. That's the system working as intended, though. You think it's like a flaw in your brain? No, they've captured your attention perfectly. You're just the victim here. Every moment you give them is a moment you aren't building your dreams or questioning their narrative. It's yet another way the status quo keeps you busy and passive while they profit. That's got to be worth a like or two, guys. Let's talk about taking control and how we do it. Ironic. He said, you're right, man. Ironic. We're seeing you on the phone. Yeah, man. Honestly, you have to use the infrastructure to beat the infrastructure. Thankfully, I built my own infrastructure. I own my own websites, things like that aren't, just reliant. So they could ban me at any time for even calling them out. And honestly, these people don't want me on the platform. But here I am. Until I get banned, I'm going to keep using it because why not? It exists and it's a better way to spread the message. So this might feel overwhelming. Like, is everything in life rigged against me? Well, the truth is, yes. No, I'm just kidding. These systems are deeply entrenched, but you're also not powerless against them. The first step is exactly what we're doing right now. You have to expose the hidden wiring. You have to take the red pill. And once you see the matrix, you can start to bend the rules or opt out of them entirely. And that's how you win, because you see financial moves 2 steps before they happen. You put your money in the market, right? Because nobody's talking about crypto right now. But historically, Bitcoin's hit an all-time high the year after it's halved every 4 years. And it halved in April of 2020, which means Bitcoin will hit an all-time high this year. Right now, it's trending lower, right? But that's when the rich people are buying it. They're keeping you distracted by war, by politics, because that's exactly where you want to be. And not hearing news about the best investments. Well, the rich people are getting in. Buy Bitcoin, guys. Don't rely on school to teach you everything, or at least teach you the truth. Read books, seek mentors, learn skills on your own. Cultivate the critical thinking and creativity that formal education might have stifled. As Albert Einstein said, never confuse education with intelligence. Your brain is capable of so much once you start feeding it with the right knowledge and questioning old assumptions. Growth I've experienced in my business came only when I started questioning the system. And you start to realize, okay, what's being put in your drinks, what's being put in your food, what's being put in the water itself, what's being put on social media, what's being taught to you in schools. It might all be lies. And once you start realizing that, you start actually thinking critically. That's the red pill. It has nothing to do with misogyny. It has nothing to do with challenging social norms. It just has to deal with what if this isn't the truth? Is there benefit for the people that made the system to not give you the full truth, to withhold power from you? If you say I sound crazy, that not believing in that sounds crazier. So you have to get financially literate. basically, in a way that school never taught you. But break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. You need to educate yourself on how money actually works. Budgeting, investing, assets and liabilities, the effects of inflation. Even if they didn't teach it in school, there are countless resources today. Start a side hustle, guys. Invest in stocks. You can even just copy trade like investors. My dad actually owns a fund which just copy trades Nancy Pelosi. So he doesn't even touch his money. He makes a shit ton. He makes like 20% in a year because he just copies what Nancy Pelosi trades. There's so many easy ways to just copy the people that are doing this and making a lot of money. Even if they didn't teach it in school, there's just so many things you guys can do. The goal is to escape the trap of trading your time for money. If you guys are in the free community, if you're in the syndicate, the newsletter I sent out today was talking about how time is just a construct, right? There should be 13 months in a year. It should be 28 days in a month. You know that Julius Caesar and Augustus put their months in, right? July and August. And otherwise it would have been January, really started when March was, which was springtime, when the year actually starts because the world wakes up. It's springtime. We pushed them back to fit July and August in. And no wonder January seems like the cold wintry months. Well, it's supposed to be the fucking end of the year. That's supposed to be December in January. January is supposed to be in March. It's technically supposed to be November. No wonder the system's broken, guys. You're not paying attention to how things are actually set up and how many systems are flawed on purpose. 24-hour time is right, guys. I will tell you that. We have too many days in a month. We're supposed to have an extra month. We're supposed to have 13 months. If you don't know that, then you don't know. Then how much do you think you do know? To be honest, like you're probably going to think I'm crazy or saying something wrong, but look at it. If you said you're not sure rich people are buying lots of Bitcoin though, then don't buy it. I'll tell you, I have a good idea of who made Bitcoin. And if I told you, you wouldn't like it. That's the same. I mean, Dan Pena has also said the same thing. He's a billionaire. He's definitely well connected with these people. Yeah, it's decentralized on purpose. And it's the biggest enemy of the system, right? Because when you buy Bitcoin, you're buying a system that isn't controlled by a central power or can be influenced by it. It's only influenced by the market itself and players in there. So you have true freedom when you buy a cryptocurrency like that. Next, we have to talk about reclaiming your attention. Your time and focus are the only two most valuable assets you should prioritize right now. Set boundaries on social media and mindless screen time. I bought what's called a brick, guys, not endorsed by them. This little device you tap your phone against. It's like $50. And then I go put it in the other room. The only way to unlock the apps is go by physically going and tapping my phone screen against the brick to unlock the features on it. So you literally don't have a choice unless you go in and actually physically get out of the room. And that's only when you're done working, right? So because I'm protecting my focus and I'm making it uncomfortable on purpose, because just like a gambling addiction, guys, we have a dopamine addiction and it's going to feel uncomfortable when you train yourself off of it. You think vaping is bad? Well, you're giving into a worse addiction every time you look at this piece of shit, this phone, right? Uninstall apps that are too addicting, turn off non-essential notifications. That's probably the best way to start. Just go in settings and notifications, and you don't need DoorDash notifications, guys. You're not ordering DoorDash every day. If you do, you're probably fat and lazy and you need to meal prep. And schedule offline time for deep work, family, and rest. And just reset. Go touch grass. Go be a human being. Use technology as a tool, not a crutch. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. You pay for TikTok. Do you pay for Instagram? Well, who pays TikTok and Instagram? Businesses. Why do businesses pay TikTok and Instagram? Why have I paid TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and YouTube? Because I want you guys. I want your attention. You guys are giving something up. Attention isn't just, you guys didn't just say, I consent to give my attention away. I said, I consent to being scrolling on this platform. And you're being made into the product. You just can't see that because all you see is tong tong sao every day. So value your attention like the precious currency it is and start acting like the 1%. And you will be. Next, question and speak up. I'm scared, guys. I'm actually scared to be saying these things because it poses a threat to my safety, my well-being. I can get banned on platforms. I can get shut up. I can be literally silenced. Somebody could come and take me out because I said the wrong thing and I challenged the system in a way that they didn't like. I'm taking a risk being here. But don't be afraid to question rhetorically, right? Like how things have always been done. Whether it's the career script or college guys' debt to 40-year job, right? And to maybe make it to retirement, that system or the news headlines that are meant to provoke you on purpose, like you're seeing right now, approach them with criticality. Discuss the insights with friends and family. The more people wake up to how these systems operate, the more pressure there will be for change. You think change means putting a ballot in a box. Change means understanding how the system works and making everyone aware. Class consciousness has always been the thing to start a revolution. And it doesn't need to be violent. It just needs to be a reframing of the ideals we have. And that's when our world will get fixed. Not with a ballot, guys. It's what goes on behind the ballot. Build your own path. The best way to beat a rigged system is to build your own game. Invest in yourself, your skills, your health, and your relationships. Define success on your own terms, not just a degree or a job title that someone else lets you have, right? That you had to apply for, that the system just so happened to grant you. Maybe you'll read a book on money management. Maybe you'll just delete the toxic app. Maybe you'll just stop talking to that toxic person, free up your time, or just a course that teaches a skill that you're passionate about. Even just simply sharing this information, this podcast, or liking it with others is a powerful action. It's showing that you attest to your development and you want to see more for yourself. Lastly, guys, the thing I'll say is it's more around you than you think. I'm going to close this. I don't even need this iPad anymore. I'm here on a mission. I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have chosen to be here if I didn't think I was one of the people that had the knowledge. I'm probably, honestly, it's funny. I asked ChatGPT to assess me among other males, educationally, physically, fitness, all this stuff. And it ranked me in the top 2%. So between 1% and 2%. I'm not in the top 1%. I'm between 1% and 2% probably. I've been blessed with the ability to challenge structure, to look at things with deeper insight. And when you start doing that, most of the time you're going to realize the world is pretty pessimistic, guys. It doesn't look good. You're not going to be happy by going down the rabbit hole. You're not going to be happy by waking up. But once you wake up, once somebody provides the information from you, your life will start to get better. And although it sucks having the information, it is a burden to have education, to have true insight and intelligence. Although that's a burden to carry because most people won't agree with you socially because they're still in this system, you'll have the ability to change your life because you understand the inner workings and you can make financial moves, psychological moves, social moves backed on that. And surprisingly, but unsurprisingly, you're going to win every fucking time. I will teach you that stuff. I'm still learning. I have more knowledge right now than you do. And that's what puts me in that percentage. Why I'm winning more than I'm losing. And why I'm winning because most people are losing. Because most people don't have access to the information. Most people trusted their public school. Most people trusted the system. And I'm not saying that we should start a revolution. I'm not saying anything like that. And I don't condone violence. I don't condone things like that. But I will make it known that you need to think. And thinking is the most rare thing nowadays. And no wonder media, no wonder music, no wonder culture is pushing less and less the ability to critically think. Because that's the only thing you have left to create power. We're fighting an uphill battle as it is. And honestly, there's probably a 95% chance that nothing happens out of this, that we get nowhere. But I will take the 5% chance that I can have an impact, that you guys can actually change things, that we can actually gain consciousness because we actually care about it. And so I will say the only place I can safely provide this information is inside the community. The only place. Because I own that infrastructure, because I can't get banned, and I don't risk losing the ability to put more of my message out into the community to help you guys. I understand, right? I'm here in the suit and tie, not the suit and tie, right? Just the shirt and tie. I look presentable, right? The perfect scammer look, don't I? But the real scammers are the people behind the screen, the people that made the software, the people that set this shit up. The old man watching you jerk your meat to Pornhub and understanding that he's trapping you in a dopamine loop and really doesn't give a shit about it. That's the enemy, the system. Challenge it. Challenge it the right way. Don't violently rebel. Challenge it appropriately and think, because that's the only thing we have left. And guys, I don't want to beat the dead fucking horse. The horse is like ashes right now. It's not even like, it's a pulp. We have beaten this horse to a literal pulp with what I'm saying. But if you don't wake up, if you don't change things, the same people are going to keep winning. And it's not going to be a surprise. And you're going to say, wow, well, why is the system getting worse? Why is inequality spreading? Because you let it. Because you are making the problem worse by knowing that there's a way to fix it and not taking action on it. And you don't want to hold yourself accountable because our society, run by the same groups, have encouraged a lack of accountability in dating, in relationships, in partnerships. Divorce rates are up. Cheating is more common. Reliability is less. And so the only chance you have at changing your life, and therefore everything around it changing, is getting the proper knowledge and insight. And it only comes from a source that you can trust. That wasn't one that was set up 150 years ago to train soldiers. It comes from modern day thinkers, modern day philosophers. And if you guys identify it any way with that, then I will see you on the backside of this. Click the link in any of the bios attached to any of the social medias you're watching on. TikTok, Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, whatever it is. I'll see you guys in the short form. I'll see you guys in the clips. And hopefully you question me, because I can actually prove myself, unlike most of these systems. I want the best for you. I want the best for me. I want the best for all of us. But it's got to start with someone not being afraid to put their foot down. And I'll do that. As much as it might cost me, as much as I might get banned, get labeled a threat, get canceled, I'll do it. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you on the other side.